Hi guys, and welcome back to ESL and Eyeshadow. Today is an ESL tips and tricks day, and we're going to be taking a look at the Ielts speaking exam. So, the Ielts exam, what is it? Well, it's an increment test, which means it doesn't matter if you are elementary or proficiency, you're going to get the same exam. And how we determine your level of English ability depends on how much of the exam you can get done in the time given and how many correct answers you give. So for example, a lower level user, we would expect not to complete the exam and obviously make some mistakes with their answers. And a higher level user, we may expect to finish most of the exam and get much more of their answers correct. Now, this is true for the reading, use of English, writing and listening stages of the exam, but not necessarily true for the speaking exam. The speaking exam, depending on what band you're going for, means you should be focusing on different parts of the exam to make a really good impact and make sure you get the speaking score that you want. So today we're going to look at the dreaded speaking part 2. Now, this is the part that most IELTS speakers absolutely hate because you have to speak all on your own for 1 minute. However, we call this supported extended speaking. You do have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say. And I know 1 minute doesn't sound like a long time, but if you follow this method that I'm about to tell you, 1 minute is all you will need for a perfect response to IELTS speaking part 2. Now, before we look at the question, a few do's and don'ts about responding. The examiner will tell you the question and they will give you the card with the question and points on. And it will always say, you should say. Just because they use the word should, which is advisory, doesn't mean you shouldn't say everything that's on the card. I'm asking you to provide me with 4, sometimes 5 pieces of information. If you don't provide me with that information, it is going to cost you marks during your exam. The next thing to think about is how long you speak for. They ask you to speak for between 1 and 2 minutes. They don't say speak for more than 2 minutes. They say between 1 and 2 minutes. Now this is for 2 reasons. One, if you're a lower level speaker, say you're around a 4 or a 5, then speaking for 2 minutes about any of these topics is going to be difficult. So they will expect you to maybe speak for a minute and 10 seconds. The higher level you are, the more we expect you to speak. But we also expect you to have control over what you're speaking. If I have to interrupt you at the end of 2 minutes and say that's enough, that's not a good thing. There are many people out there who will tell you to speak until the examiner tells you to stop. Don't do that. That shows you have a lack of control over what you're saying. You've had a minute to prepare this. You should have been practicing how long it takes to say things for 2 minutes. So don't speak for more than that. This also, if you speak for more than 2 minutes, you run the risk of not covering all of the points of the task. And if I have to cut you off before you've finished answering all the parts of the task, you're not going to achieve full marks. So, first of all, let's have a look at the picture. It will be here somewhere. So this particular question is, describe a place that you like. You should say where this place is, when you first went there, what you do or did there, and explain why this place is special for you. Now, at this point, the examiner will give you the card and repeat the question. When you get your pencil and piece of paper, and you start thinking about responses, look at each of those question words. So where, when, what, and why in this particular question. And quickly on your paper, write those question words and then write a few bullet points to remind you of each thing. So where, write the name of the place. When, write when it was you went there, a date, a year, a month, a season. What you did or what you do there. Now on this one you should write a little bit more. So for example, if you're talking about a holiday place that you went to, you could put things like sunbathing, eating new food, exploring the city, sightseeing, all sorts of different words that are to do with travel. But just one word, because you shouldn't be writing full sentences. You don't have time for that. You just want something you can look at quickly while you're speaking to remind you of what to say next. And then finally, why this place is special for you. So put a few reasons why. Had a lovely time with my wife, had a lovely time with my husband, things like that. Met my wife, met my husband, found my favourite food, things like that. So, when it comes to writing down, wait until that whole minute is up and really think about what you're saying, because the examiner will say to you, okay, please begin, once that minute to think is finished. Never start speaking before the examiner tells you to, because you're really just not taking the time that you can to really deliver a good answer. Even if you're a high level speaker and you're aiming for like an 8 or a 9 even, take that full minute, because here you can take a chance to take some time to think about idioms that you could put in or high value synonyms that you can put in, and it should allow you time to do that if you're a higher level. If you're a lower level, it's just good to have that extra time to think about things. So let's have a look at the actual question itself. Now, the first two questions, where this place is and when you first went there, can be answered in one sentence. So for example, I'm going to tell you about a place that I like, and that place is Disneyland, Paris. I first went there in 2010 with my boyfriend. That's one sentence. And that has covered the first two parts of the question. So your examiner is going to go tick, tick, got that information, I'm good to move on. Now, this then means you've got a minute and a half to talk about the last two parts of this exercise. Now this is good because the last two parts, what you do there and why it's special for you, give you the time to really tell some stories. So make sure you are telling a story. Give me some anecdotes. Tell me about something that happened to you while you were there. So for example, what you do there. When I was in Disneyland Paris, I visited the Magic Kingdom and I watched the parade, I saw all the fireworks, it was just magical. My favourite Disney character is the Little Mermaid, and I got to meet the Little Mermaid and have my photo taken with her. And the rides were spectacular. So you can really say some nice things, tell a story about wherever it was you were. Now, connecting that third part into the fourth part is really easy. All you have to do is say, and the reason this place is so special for me is, and then give a reason. So for example, it's the place that my husband, my now husband, proposed to me in the middle of the parade. Obviously you need to give some more details. I'm just giving you an example. But remember, you should be aiming to speak for around 1 minute and 45 seconds. To finish up, it's a really good idea to end on a conditional. This way, the examiner knows that you have finished. You can do this by giving a recommendation. For example, so If you ever get the chance to visit Disneyland Paris, I'd really recommend it. And that's a nice high-level conditional to finish your speaking on. The examiner will know that you have finished speaking. It's rounded out what you're saying, and it's ending on a nice high grammar point. Now, my last piece of advice. You can answer the questions in any order. However, they're laid out in a logical way. Answer the questions in order. It's the most logical route. Where it is, when you went there, what you did, and why you like it. If you start with why you like something, but I don't know where it was or what it was, I'm going to be confused. So start at the top, tell the story, end with the conditional recommending the examiner goes. Now, let's just run over that checklist. So, first of all, when you get your minute, look at the question words. Bullet point, so 1 or 2 words, a couple of things for each part of the task. When you start speaking, wait until the examiner tells you to. Make sure you cover every single part of the task, focusing mainly on the second and third item. Lastly, end with a conditional. So if I were you, I'd really like to go to Disneyland Paris if I were you. Okay? Or if you haven't been to Disneyland Paris, I really recommend you go. And that's it. Try not to speak for over 2 minutes. The best way to practice doing this is get your timer, stopwatch, either online, on your phone, something, and practice reading out loud for 2 minutes. Take a book, it can be any book you like, an English book is better, and read aloud from that book for 2 minutes. Stop when you get the end of 2 minutes on your clock, restart. Do it over and over and over, at least a couple of times a night. I've been doing this for nearly 14 years and I can speak for 2 minutes without looking at a clock like that, every single time, like 1 minute 58, 1 minute 54, because I've been practicing doing it for so long. So the best way for you to do it is do the same. Practice. Take a book, time yourself, read for that long. Take a book, time yourself, read for that long. That way you get an idea in your head of how long 2 minutes to speak is. So I hope today has been helpful for you. I will be looking at other parts of the Ielts exam in future videos, so please do leave a like and a subscribe to be notified of when they're ready for you. And if there's any content you'd like to see, any parts of the exam you're having trouble with, or any grammar points that you'd like me to cover, leave a comment below and I will make a response video for you as soon as I can. So, take care and I'll see you next time. Bye!